on the YouTube.
Good morning and welcome to the Western Seattle. We are streaming here in the Westin Grand Ballroom. Streaming to YouTube and GitButter.
Podium microphone check 1 2 1 2. Sounds good. Welcome to the Westin. Thank you. 1 2. One, two. A beautiful Friday morning. 1 2. This is a podium microphone check. Podium microphone. Up front, center stage. 1 2 3 4. 1 2. Podium stage microphone check. Podium microphone check. Check, check. Check 1 2. 1 2. There you go. 1 2. Podium microphone check. Check, check. Good, good.
Maya, we got Caitlin. Oh. Sleep.
Is there any way to lower it? Oh, okay, no, don't cover it, don't change it. Sorry, don't touch. Is there any way to lower it to my height? How much can you not see? I can see everything for one. A little closer. Or like center yourself. Back up. As long as you can read the top half, that should be enough. I feel like I'm looking out into space. Sure. But not where the people are. The whole point of this is that you and they say the exact same thing. And so that, and kind of basically make eye contact without losing place. That's way what I'd rather do. This is not bad. I like this. This is cool, but yeah. Okay. So if you plan to read off, is it okay? I mean, I don't have big changes. Yeah, and but we'll track along no matter what. So even if you looked up at the prompter at any time, you would see where you're. Yeah. So if you chose, or if I sneezed real big and this flew away. Exactly. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But the audio's picking well, sounds good. It is good to speak. Because then you can get those. Okay. Right. I won't. Yeah. I'm not a preacher. So. It's okay to it's crazy. And mine. I'm split. Right. Yeah. And right. Yeah. Okay. So I've practiced. Okay, perfect. Well, it's nice to finally meet you in the flesh. It's because I forgot you. I have. Well, you know? I recorded. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm here. I'm ready. Wonderful. I didn't mean to interrupt. No. I don't want to. I'm checking for. Yeah.
Can I have one favor while you folks are up there?
Okay, so here's. Okay, no, I got it, and I won't. I'm not gonna.
Can you do me a favor and spiel into the microphone for a few lines?
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Is that
a couple more lines and then we'll be good.
You want me to hum a few bars?
Hum a few bars, stand proud, and project.
Blueberry muffin. Welcome to the 37th annual Charles A. Goldmark Award Luncheon. I'm Caitlin Davis, the Executive Director of the Legal Foundation of Washington, and it's my honor to welcome you back today to this event in person and online, and thank you so much for being here to support our amazing civil legal aid community. Okay. What does that mean?
We're good. That was him. I was going thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh.
He said thumbs up. So yeah. They just need to get your levels.
Oh, okay, they're not checking some other.
No. I think we're all good.
Oh, okay.
Be with you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Westin Seattle. If you can please find your seats, we will begin in a moment.
Hey everyone, we're going to get going with the program if you want to take your seats. Okay, everybody come on in. The table is written on your label. Sorry. Yeah, why don't you stand on this? Oops. And then when it's your turn, you want to tell everyone to sit down? No. Okay. If we can flash the lights a few times. Get a flash the lights.
Thank you for joining us on this lovely afternoon. If you can please take your seats,
We are starting.
So really good.
Okay. Gonna give everyone 10 more seconds to sit down and hey, tech folks, can you flash the lights to the room? Someone?
If they're unable to do it. At 12:03. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 37th Annual Charles A. Goldmark Award Luncheon. Okay. I'm Caitlin Davis, the Executive Director of the Legal Foundation of Washington, and it's my honor to welcome you back to our annual event. Thank you for being here in person and online to support our amazing civil legal aid community and those they serve. I'm thrilled to be celebrating Michele Storms, who career spans from the early days of Columbia Legal Services to NJP to the University of Washington, and now leading this Washington State affiliate of the American Civil Liberties Union. And in addition, is a much beloved person in our community. Here at the Legal Foundation of Washington, we're hard at work growing resources from our generous legal aid and business communities and working with legal aid partners across the state to deploy those funds where they are needed most and to support our grantees' efforts in the courts and the legislature where policies and laws take root. Today at this event, everyone in this room is demonstrating a strong commitment to advancing equal justice for people across our state. So please know that and know that we appreciate you. I'd like to take a moment now to recognize a few civil legal aid champions who died in the last year. Wayne Blair, Bill Hislop, Jan Eric Peterson, Bill Fitzharris, and June Dallaire. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the immediate past president of the Legal Foundation of Washington, Candelaria Murillo. Candelaria is a partner at Anderson Law in Kennewick. She was born and raised in Sunnyside, Washington, and graduated from Gonzaga University School of Law. Bulldogs, yay. She started her career at Northwest Immigrant Rights Project and then worked at Columbia Legal Services for more than a decade. Please welcome Candelaria.
Gracias, Caitlin. Es un honor estar aquí, and I'm thrilled to be here in person. Over the last several years, LFW has been focused externally and internally to change its practices and policies to reflect its commitment to racial equity. As it says on our website, we are committed to understanding and addressing how all oppression affects the ability of low-income Washingtonians to access justice. And towards that end, I am excited to share that LFW has expanded its board to include 2 community members, Anthony Powers and Jennifer Bearskin. Bienvenidos, a very warm welcome. We look forward to adding their voices expertise, and experiences to Washington's legal aid network. It is also extremely important to acknowledge that we are gathered here on a stolen and unceded Indigenous homeland, and in the context of broken treaties and unresolved harms to Native peoples. We are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people and the Coast of Salish, who have made and continue to make their homes here around the Salish Sea. We also recognize that we live in a nation of wealth, but a wealth created by the subjugation and exploitation of African peoples brought to this land through chattel slavery. We honor and we uplift the original Indigenous stewards of this land and the forced contributions from generations of Africans. This is an acknowledgement of stolen land and stolen labor, and a recognition that the impact of these wrongs reverberates in our present day. Our acknowledgement does not replace authentic relationships, but serve only as a small step in honoring with gratitude the land on which we live.
Thank you, Candelaria. We're grateful you could join us in person today. Oop. Now I got it. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to take a moment to recognize another leader among us, Jorge Barone, the soon-to-be retiring longtime Executive Director of Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. I want to take just a moment to say thank you, Jorge, for your friendship, for being such a great colleague to me, for your service the last 17 years at NERP during tumultuous, unpredictable times, and leading and growing NERP into an effective immigration advocacy organization and a model for the rest of the country. And the only thing I'm super excited about is to hear your next big plans. So we'll save that for another day, but I think we're all waiting. Thank you, Jorge. Now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies for the lunch, Sean Davis. What? Sean is a former Judge Advocate General with the Air Force, former General Counsel of the Washington State Bar Association, a lawyer at Microsoft currently, super dad, super coach, and our esteemed LFW board president as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin and Candelaria. I am thrilled to be here and really happy doing this in person. Thank you for being here. And seeing all your smiling faces really encourages me today. Last 2 years, talking to a camera and an empty theater was a little difficult. And I want to say a special shout out to the more than 100 people watching virtually. Thank you for being here with us virtually. We have an exciting program planned for you today. We will celebrate the Goldmark Award recipient, Michele Storms. We'll take a close-up look at the transformative work of one of LFW's 53 grantees. And we'll hear from our inspiring keynote speaker and former Northwest resident, Twyla Carter. A quick reminder for those online, if you have technical issues, please email justice@legalfoundation.org and the LFW staff will be able to assist you. Also, another reminder, if you need closed captioning, please click the CC icon on the YouTube video. At any time throughout the event, you can make a donation by clicking the donate button online. And here in the room, you can text justice to 535555. Hit the QR code in the back of the program or write your credit card number directly on the card at your table. The old-fashioned way still works. Now it's time to express gratitude to some key people in our community. First, I'd like to thank our table captains who helped fill this room. We are at capacity today thanks to them. So it's a little scary having a 3-year hiatus. So we're quite sure what to expect this year with the hybrid events. And we're so excited to have this room full. And let's have our table captains stand for a round of applause. Please stand. Great work. And just as critical to the success of this event is our sponsors who provide the foundational funding for this annual signature event. Our presenting sponsors have contributed $20,000. Please thank Conley Law and Jim Daigle and Jeannie Berwick for their contributions. And of course, our legacy sponsors. We have 8 legacy sponsors that contributed $10,000. Thank you to Amazon, Davis Wright Tremaine, DeLay Curran Thompson, Controller and Walker, Johnson Flora Sprangers, Microsoft, Perkins Coie, Starbucks Coffee Company, and T-Mobile. We also have 10 leadership sponsors who have donated $5,000. John and Bobby Bridge, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Keller Rohrbach, K&L Gates, Hillis Clark, Martin and Pearson, Val Cochran Fertitas, Amala, and Policini Lee. And the Washington State Association for Justice, Washington Trust Bank, and William E. Walkner Foundation. We also have many wonderful sponsors contributing $3,500 at the Equal Justice Sponsorship level that you can see on your screen. Many more supporters donated at our $1,000 community level. Thank you all so much for your generosity and support, which helps make this event the success that it is. I would also like to acknowledge and thank our steadfast law firms who provide significant funding each year. In the 2022 campaign, the campaign raised more than $2 million for civil legal aid, and a third of that coming from our King County and Pierce County Law campaign. I'd like to give a shout out to the King County Bar Association, which is a key partner in the law firm campaign. Now, I know many of you in the room are active with the KCBA, which is our state's largest pro bono organization, and LFW's 3rd largest grantee. Another very important funding partner is our long-term sustainable legal aid fund, the Endowment for Equal Justice. Over the last 9 years, the endowment has dispersed almost $7 million to the LFW. And last year, it met a long-term goal to distribute $1 million to the grant-making pool at LFW this year. I always want to give some history because I know that each year we have new supporters in the room. The Legal Foundation of Washington was founded almost 40 years ago by our Washington State Supreme Court to distribute a single source of revenue, interest on lawyer trust accounts for the provision of legal aid. Over the years, it has diversified its funding, which this luncheon is a big part of. In order to level the playing field, to provide critical legal expertise and resources to individuals and families, because they are experiencing poverty, would not be able to afford legal assistance on their own. Last year, the foundation granted out over $13 million to 53 organizations serving more than 20,000 families. Now, I know I just read a bunch of numbers, but those aren't just numbers. Each number represents a story touching hundreds of thousands of Washington residents through systemic advocacy and impact litigation. And today, you are part of those stories as well. From Columbia Legal Services and Northwest Immigration Rights Project to the Unemployment Law Project and Tacoma Pro Bono, LFW provided not only critical operating funds, but support beyond the check, such as interpreter services used to communicate with clients in over 55 different languages. Take a look at where LFW funds go around the states. Take a look at the map here. We know that creating fair access to civil justice requires undoing systemic racial oppression and reflects racial justice and inclusion in all that we do. One of the things that we are most proud of is our strong racial equity grant funds. Our race equity grants provide multi-year funding to advance racial justice and civil legal aid and build power in communities. We use a participatory grant-making model led by an advisory panel of community leaders who have lived experience, who review all grant applications and prioritize the projects that will be most impactful. To date, 34 organizations have received funding, including the Way to Justice in Spokane, the NAACP of Vancouver, and the Seattle Clemency Project. This past year, we also launched our Accelerated Grant Program. This program is designed to fast-track civil justice work and provide startup funds to launch projects with potential. As with all of our grants, we use a racial equity lens to prioritize projects focused on groups who have been disproportionately under-resourced by civil legal aid, such as Native and Indigenous people, clients without lawful immigration status, and those impacted by the justice system. Thank you to the small but mighty staff of the Legal Foundation of Washington for your work every day to facilitate justice for thousands of families in need across Washington State. Thank you to each of the organizations. Oh, please speak up. And thank you to each of the organizations we fund for the tireless work for equal justice. They are on the front lines every day. And thank you to each of you for being here today and donating to make this work possible. Again, you are part of impacting people's stories across the state of Washington. Beth Bloom is an employment trial lawyer who has been fighting for equal opportunity in the workplace for more than 2 decades. Her law firm, Bloom Law PLC, is founded on the belief that we are all imbued with dignity and entitled to the same rights and privileges at work. Her firm focuses on civil jury trials as an important tool for democracy and social change. Outside of her day job, Bloom is a committed social advocate who gives back to the legal community. She founded Q-Law, the LGBTQ Bar Association of Washington, and served several terms on the King County Bar Association Board of Trustees, and is a current member of the Board of Endowment for Equal Justice, one of the beneficiaries of today's program, which raises and invests funds to support long-term sustainable funding for civil legal aid in Washington. Please join me in welcoming Beth.
Thank you, Sean, for that warm welcome. And hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Isn't this amazing? We're here in person. I am thrilled to be here to celebrate the heroes in our profession who change people's lives every day. You know, as an employment trial lawyer, I love connecting with jurors to empower them to protect equality and to restore human dignity. But there are only 12 jurors, and there are 600 of you here in this room. Give yourselves a hand. So I will have to try to rise to the occasion. You know, I think we all, and I certainly speak for myself when I say that I believe in the law. And I want to see America be what she proclaims herself to be in our founding documents: a land of equality and liberty with respect for human dignity. Don't we all want that? Thank you. It is obviously powerful. It can change lives for the better or for the worse. What legal aid lawyers do is they push the law on its journey to becoming a true justice system. Now, there are more than 50 legal aid programs funded by the Legal Foundation of Washington and the Endowment for Equal Justice. Every single one of those 50+ grantees align with these core values. And it's thanks to donors like you that Washington's legal aid organizations can provide vital services to advance access to equal justice. These organizations and their lawyers meet people where they are. They go to libraries, community centers, homeless shelters, prisons, and courthouses. Now, our Washington Supreme Court called us all to action in an extraordinary open letter to the legal community, urging lawyers to confront racial injustice in society and in the law. That's what legal aid does, you guys. That's what they do. So, by being here today, you are heeding that call of the Washington Supreme Court to take action. And by making a contribution today, you are taking action. For those of you joining us at home, it says, look at camera. For those of you joining at home, you can take action at any time by clicking the donate button to the right of the video, which I'm told is right up there. Or you can text justice to 53555. And if you don't know how to do that, ask your kid. For those of us in the room today, you will see me again later in the program, and we can come together for a tremendous collective action. Between now and then, we're going to hear all the reasons why our collective action matters, now more than ever. I'll see you again soon, and it's back to Sean. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. We'll see you again soon. Now it's time for a little celebrating and to recognize some hard work on behalf of equal justice that had great results. As many of you know, LFW relies on revenue from many funding sources, none more important than partners and associates who work at the firms, sole practitioners, the members of corporate legal departments, and public entities. Legal aid lawyers and members of the judiciary, you are the backbone of the campaign for equal justice and the foundation. These two entities cannot function without your support. So this is a big day, and you play a big part. So again, thank you for being here. And to acknowledge the county with the highest percentage of lawyers contributing to the campaign for equal justice is campaign president Peter Talovich, a partner with K&L Gates. Welcome, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and hello, everyone. Every year, the Legal Foundation of Washington awards the Rainier Cup to the county with the highest percentage of lawyers donating to the campaign for equal justice. This is a highly sought after and competitive award created to honor the commitment to equal justice and to take advantage of lawyers' competitive natures. This year, in what I would call an upset, the award goes to the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum counties in Southwest Washington. Now you may say, wait, that's 2 counties, and you would be right. Here at LFW, in our effort to be equitable and to take into account rural, less populated parts of the state, we have combined counties to recognize the volunteer lawyer programs which serve residents of more than one state, more than one county. There are 140 attorneys serving more than 20,000 low-income residents. And Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Legal Aid has increased its presence in the community by partnering with other nonprofit organizations and the local bar association. In addition, and something which I think has been instrumental in helping Cowlitz-Wahkiakum win the Rainier Cup, the campaign held its first Beer and Justice events in Cowlitz-Wahkiakum in 2021 and 2022. Getting out and meeting people makes a difference. And last year, Cowlitz-Wahkiakum won the Mountain Climber Award for most improved percentage of lawyers supporting legal aid. So come on, smaller counties, it can be done. So please join me in welcoming Lori Basher-Sarancic, who has been leading the Cowlitz Wahkiakum Legal Aid Program for almost 10 years, to come up and accept this award. Now for some more outstanding achievement, please welcome the co-chair of the 2022 Associates Campaign for Equal Justice, Sydney Codd, with Fal Cochran Vertitis Amela to the stage. I just want to take a minute, though, to say a few words about this outstanding program, which is only 4 years old. It has been the most successful new outreach program in the history of LFW. Thanks to the efforts of our associates themselves, newer, younger people are getting involved, having fun, and learning about the importance of legal aid to our communities. While we could never do without our big and small law firms and corporate legal departments, the Associates Campaign is a smashing fundraising story. Please welcome the co-chair of the 2022 Associates Campaign for Equal Justice, Sydney Codd, to the stage.
Thank you, Pete. And I'm so happy to be here. And thank you so much for LFW and the Campaign for Equal Justice for hosting another fun year of the Associates Campaign. 2022 was the 4th year of the Associates Campaign, and we welcome 2 new law firms to join in the fun. If your firm isn't a part of the Associates Campaign, please let us know, and we will get you involved this year. With 14 law firms and 1 matching gift, we blew the roof off of contributions and the numbers of attorneys contributing to the campaign this year and raised over $270,000. I also want to give a special shout out to Endowment Advisory Council member Lucy Lee Helm, who provided us with a matching grant which encouraged our associates to really dig deep. And they did. We are so grateful for that extra push. The Associates Campaign is a perfect example of doing good and having fun. Here are all of our outstanding participating firms. These 14 firms worked together to raise funds and also competed for a few awards to keep things fun for a good cause. This year, 2 of our coveted trophies go both to 1 firm. They have a small number of associates, but they are huge in heart and generosity. We're excited to announce the winner of the General Counsel Cup for the highest average gift goes to my favorite law firm, Fal Cochran Vertitis Amela, who led the pack this year with the largest average gift of $900. And I may be biased, but it's no surprise that Fal Cochran also won the Rainier Award, which is given to the firm who raised the most money, which they did by raising more than $50,000. Huge congratulations to PCBA for sweeping both awards, and I'd like to invite my colleagues, Alex Dietz and Leslie O'Neill, to the stage to accept them. Now on to the Amicus Cup. We tried a new process this year for the Amicus Award, this year making it a committee choice award. This award acknowledges the firm that goes above and beyond and has a truly outstanding performance. One that rallies their firm but also encourages other firms to step up and raise even more funds for legal aid. This was a tough choice, but the committee voted to give the Amicus Award to K&L Gates for their incredible creative, competitive spirit and ability to inspire growth inside and outside of their firm. Led by Rachel Morowitz, Destiny Everts, and Abe Weil, the dream team at K&L Gates kept the energy up, proposed creative ideas to raise money, and spread the word about the need for legal aid. And it worked. They went from 36% associate giving last year to 86% this year and brought an associate average gift of $432. I can tell you from personal experience that my law firm was sweating the entire 2 weeks of the campaign, knowing that K&L Gate was really bringing the heat. Their competitive spirit definitely made the campaign fun for everyone and ultimately led to the Associates campaign exceeding our goals and raising money for legal aid. To accept the Amicus Award, please welcome Rachel Morowitz, last year's Associates campaign chair, to the stage. Thank you, Rachel, and I look forward to working with all of the 2023 Associates Campaign Committee next year, or this year, to raise even more money for legal aid this fall. Thank you so much.
Amazing and inspiring. I love the energy from these young associates, setting the right tone early in their careers. Seriously, how awesome is it that we are growing our support from these young, smart, and dedicated attorneys? Thank you so much. Another round of applause, please. Okay, now it's time for the heart of the events, honoring the Charles A. Goldmark Distinguished Service Award recipient. I'd like to welcome Tony Davis to the stage. Tony has been practicing law for the last 25 years in a variety of settings, clerking for the late Justice Chambers as a VP at a publicly traded company, and also as a sole practitioner. She now serves as the Deputy Director of the ACLU of Washington. Please join me in welcoming Tony to the stage.
All right, y'all. I'll take it. Seriously, hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here to introduce Michele Storms, an individual of distinction. She is Executive Director of the ACLU of Washington, former Assistant Dean for Public Service, and former Executive Director for the Gates Program at the University of Washington. She is also a leader, a friend, a mother, a mentor to many. And now she can add winner of the 2023 Goldmark Distinguished Service Award. To give you a sense of who Michele is, let's lean into what it means to be an individual of distinction. Michele is a leader. She is one who leads not just through eloquent words, but by example, modeling what excellence means as a lawyer, an advocate, and as a human. But there's a distinction between someone who leads and someone who, while leading, opens the doors for others, who lifts people up and shines the spotlight on them. Michele is that leader. Michele is a collaborator. Where some would forge ahead alone, she understands the distinction between the lonely leader and the community builder. She understands that collaboration and curiosity net the best results, that we are truly better together. Michele centers people. She puts relationships first. And that includes those of us who are part of the ACLU family, our partners, our allies, the communities we serve, and even those who might not agree with us. She makes space for multiple truths and norms and centers and elevates everyone's humanity. Through these distinctions and so many more, Michele has set herself and our organization and many others within and outside of our community on a path to dismantling the systems of oppression, those systems that seek to limit or eliminate the civil rights and civil liberties of marginalized communities, which, by the way, limit and eliminate the civil rights and the civil liberties of everyone. Michele truly understands that we're all connected. And with that in mind, she is willing to say and do the hard things when justice and race and other equities require a response. She's willing to tell the truth and lean into discomfort when sitting in silence would simply be more convenient. That's bravery, folks. May we all learn from Michele's example to live and to lead with distinction. I'm not the only one who feels this way, so let's hear from some other members of our community. Thank you.
And I think about how law has unfolded, it starts on this great inequity. And I am on fire to bring that equity back, to make these promises of freedom and justice for all truly be for everyone, which means really paying attention to the ways and the places in which it wasn't true.
I think about Michele Storms, two words come to mind, and that is love and justice. And I've seen her bring along other advocates for justice from all walks of life.
Michele is so deserving of the Goldmark Award. If you look just at the community of social justice lawyers who Michele, over the course of her career, has mentored, supported, and helped to grow, it reaches across the entire state, across almost every field in civil legal services, in public defense, in government.
I think about someone sometimes being called a moral compass. And I think Michele's great genius is that she's many kinds of compasses.
I didn't realize that civil legal aid was something that existed. And once I knew that it did exist, I said, that is exactly what I want to do. And I was incredibly fortunate to get my first job at what was then known as Evergreen Legal Services.
Michele is very deserving of this award because of the breadth and scope and vision that she's shown at the law school, in legal aid organizations. She was chair of the ATJ board, now at ACLU.
So she's been an incredible force for helping to design the statewide community infrastructure.
Thing that we have done over the past few years is really try to ground all of those fights in and with and accountable to communities. And that shift towards community accountability has been an incredibly important part of the ACLU's work since Michele took the lead.
One of Michele's incredible qualities that I've seen a lot at ACLU is when things happen, such as the murder of George Floyd. Michele provides leadership by talking about those things in a way that both understands what people are going through and what those things mean to people and kind of the difficult side of it, but she always pivots to, we're in this together, we're going to go forward, we're going to make a better world, we have to keep going. And her impact on the staff at ACLU in doing that is remarkable, in which people can feel that they can mourn, but also move forward together.
And there will be an email from Michele. And that communication will ground us in why we're here, how we got here, what led to this moment, what we are doing collectively to push back, and then a call for all of us to care for ourselves, to care for our families, to care for our broader communities, and it always ends onward.
Law truly is a noble and honorable profession that we need. So many things that we're able to accomplish for justice, for social change, are movements that require activism on the ground, that require lawyers. We need all of us.
Her vision is always long-term.
One of the things that I find especially hopeful right now is the increasing understanding of the intersectionality of all these issues, the relationship between voting rights and LGBT rights and disability rights and racial justice and economic justice. And that tells me that we're actually getting to a place where we might get this system to understand how to come together for the good of everyone. Change is scary for people because people think they're going to lose something. And I really want us to always think about what could we gain through changing some systems to be more inclusive.
Michele, congratulations on receiving the 2023 Goldmark Award. Our community is so lucky to have you.
So many people have contributed to helping me to be where I am today, and I'm just very grateful. Thank you.
To be honest, I became a lawyer because I was angry. I was full of righteous anger because in my life and in my work and volunteering, I experienced and witnessed inhumanity and inequity. In the 1980s, a long time ago, before I went to law school, this country was in a recession with significant unemployment and financial struggle for many people. I worked with unhoused people, and I saw that people of all ages were struggling to find work or keep work. We're struggling to find housing or keep housing, to find food and feed themselves and their families. And I thought, why are we as a society tolerating this? How is this okay? Because the more I talked to people and understood how their circumstances became so dire, as I explored my own family stories about the struggles we'd overcome, it was clear to me that something was missing, something critical. So I marched my 20-something-year-old self to law school with one plan in mind: to become a civil legal aid lawyer and join the ranks of the soldiers fighting for justice, most particularly for those whom society has deemed unworthy of voice or access. There are many of you who come to this event every year, and you come because you're concerned about the same things that I was concerned about decades ago. Our laws and policies and systemic exclusion of too many beloved humans is still a problem, and a worsening one. The U.S. Census Bureau reports 37.9 million people in poverty in the United States as of 2021.
About 10% of Washingtonians live in poverty. And according to our most recent state civil legal needs study, 70% of those households experience at least one serious civil legal need every year, yet more than 3/4 of them don't get any assistance. And these problems are worse for people who are Black, Indigenous, immigrant, for people living with disabilities or any number of intersecting identities. We not only historically, but presently exclude the voices of people from identities made marginalized by decades of oppression and exclusion in the US. We have historically and presently chosen not to listen to the voices of people who are in the middle of these serious problems and have excellent solutions, but rarely get a seat at any table designed to make change. And just to make the implicit explicit, these problems are not created by or the fault of those enduring them. There is substantial information and evidence of our historical practices which directly show how many of our country's systems were in fact designed to exclude or prevent certain populations from succeeding and living prosperously in this country. These policies over decades have made it harder to climb out of poverty conditions. Our country's very founding and some policies that follow through even to today serve to oppress Black people, Indigenous people, and other people of color, and the harms of poverty, incarceration, school dropout rates, and so much more are not accidental. So maybe you're also angry, and that's part of why you're here. And maybe also it's the hope you have for something better that brings you here. We must confront the truth of the struggles of our times, and as people with privilege, we can't turn away. I'm still troubled by the conditions and suffering that far too many people experience, and that's why I've chosen to continue to do the work I do, to do something about it, to work toward a society and legal system that is fair, equitable, a society that centers the belonging and humanity of everyone, regardless of their identity, and lives up to the constitutional promises of justice for all. I am looking at myself and at you and asking us to pay attention to the rise in hatred and exclusion, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, transphobia, racism, indigenous erasure, anti-Asian hate, anti-immigrant hate, the full panoply of meanness. And I know it sometimes seems hopeless. It may seem like we're helpless, but we're not. We have choices we can make, and we can't wait any longer to make them. So I'm looking at myself and I'm looking at you and asking us to pay attention to the fragility of our democracy. There's active voter suppression happening all across the country, especially in southern states. And there's a narrative nationwide that invites distrust in our democratic systems instead of doing the vital work to build it up and make it stronger so that it well serves all people. I'm looking at myself and at you and asking us to pay attention to economic policies. On the national and local scenes, there's rarely even any reference to poverty. But we can't alleviate the conditions of poverty when we pretend it doesn't exist. We live in one of the wealthiest countries, yet 13 million children live in poverty in the US. Another 15 million senior citizens live in poverty or food insecure households. We are literally and actually rich in this country, and we still let this happen. We have a choice to make. The choice to work for good, to maintain hope, even in the face of these challenges. I'm looking at myself and at you and asking us to pay attention to governmentally sanctioned violence disproportionately administered on Black and brown bodies in unnecessary and violent interactions with law enforcement that too often lead to death and too rarely lead to accountability. Tyree Nichols, George Floyd, Charlena Lyles, Don T. Williams, and so many others that it would take all day or more to say their names. Faced with this, how do we look away? In Flint, Michigan, in the pueblos of New Mexico, and for too many farm worker families, Black families and Indigenous families, low-income families, there's still no clean drinking water in this wealthy country. We cannot look away. My now far from 20-something-year-old self is still asking, why do we tolerate these things? We shouldn't.
So beyond being here, giving your dollars and efforts to the Legal Foundation of Washington, really need all of us, from whatever role we play, whether as lawyers, judges, educators, court personnel, policy analysts, lawmakers, journalists, students, whoever we are, pay attention, be courageous, support legal aid, of course, and support the efforts of grassroots movements, as so many of our legal aid organizations and the LFW are actively doing. Listen to and join forces with those most impacted, not seeking to lead, but to support. Then you can take action, speak up, keep righteous anger alive for so long as people are suffering. Choose not to look away, choose to face the problems before us, choose a better future for every one of us. We have the privilege and the power to build a better world if we choose to use it. Now, because we can't do anything alone, I do want to take a moment to share my gratitude to those who chose to support me in my journey. I thank you so much to the Legal Foundation of Washington for this award. I am humbled and blown away to stand in the ranks of the amazing people like Carl Maxey, Greg Dallaire, Lupe Gamboa, John McKay, Pat Arthur, Lim Howell, and Annie Lee, among other rock stars, and of course, Charles Goldmark himself, a formidable lawyer and visionary for justice whose life was cut brutally and tragically short by the very kinds of hatred I described earlier. The luckiest thing that could have ever happened to me was getting my first legal aid job in Washington State at Evergreen Legal Services. So many people shaped my worldview and my practice. Ada Shen Jaffe, Kim Prochnow, my first legal assistant, Sally Weir, who actually taught me everything, Peter Greenfield, Steve Fredrickson, John Midgley, Gail Turner, Michael Mira, Debbie Perlis, Jim Bamberger, Dan Ford, Aurora Martin, Janet Farron, Denise Reed, Bev Miller, Laura Contreras, and the late Robert Edelman, and so many more. I'm so grateful to my family, especially the powerful elder women in my family, Regina Worthy, Ann Orange, Gloria Worthy, Faye Parks, Rebecca Williams, these soldiers of overcoming injustice who started me on my path. And my gratitude extends to my loves and supporters, my husband, Jack, my son, Samora, my soul daughter, Tracy, and my beautiful colleagues at the ACLU of Washington, who are just relentless about achieving equity and justice. I could have no better partners. So to close, I say again, be courageous, be in the fight, take care of yourselves, please, so that we're resourced for the fight, but don't give in to conditions that you know aren't fair. It is far too easy to become apathetic or desensitized. But if we are in this room, regardless of how our early circumstances, we are very, very lucky. And as Peter Parker's gentle Uncle Ben Parker said, to whom much is given, much is expected. Thank you so much. Let's keep turning our righteous anger into justice.
All right. I'd like to welcome Beth Bloom to the stage.
Thank you, Sean. Michele, I know I'm in the lower ranks of the Michele Storms Booster Club. I've only had my membership card for about 20 years. But wow, thank you so much. What a gift to our community you are. And you said that your first job was at Evergreen Legal Services. As I mentioned to you this morning, my first job was actually at the ACLU of Washington. And I am so thrilled to see someone of your caliber and quality coming into leadership at the ACLU. We are all so grateful. So thanks again for Michele.
So now we are going to shift gears and look at another groundbreaking leadership. This time we're going to take a deeper look into one of the amazing legal aid organizations funded by LFW and the Endowment for Equal Justice. Let's take a look.
When we first started the Seattle Clemency Project, we had a pretty simple idea that we had a lot of people in prison who had done time beyond which it was serving a valid purpose. We wanted to provide free legal services to those individuals in response to a systemic problem that we saw. Washington abolished parole in 1984. And what that meant for our system of justice was that a lot of people who are sent to prison for life and long sentences went there with no review based on their rehabilitation.
These reformed individuals that are currently incarcerated have very few opportunities to demonstrate that maturation and reform. They do not have a right to counsel.
When we started going into the prisons, what we found were some of the most powerful people we'd ever met. And we told lawyers that there was an opportunity for them to tell stories about extraordinary people who are in our prisons and to tell the Clemency Board and the governor that we are missing out in our community by not having these people back in it. One of the things that I've really learned is just how critical our pro bono legal community is.
Volunteering your time can mean that one more person has a just outcome. It can mean that one more person has an opportunity to earn their freedom. And volunteering your time does mean that you're going to be joining a community of talented professionals who are working to change our state's relationship with mass incarceration.
Although Washington's population is only 3.5% African American, 28% of people who have received life and long sentences are Black. And so there's a racial disproportionality that has been part of our screening process as we identify people who are good candidates to be matched with lawyers. The Legal Foundation of Washington was one of the first foundations to fund us. Over the last 6 years, we've been able to match 235 people with volunteer lawyers, and we've generated over $9 million in free legal services. 82 people with life or long sentences have been released from prison. That's 1,141 years of incarceration saved. That's $44 million of incarceration costs saved.
I've seen men and women who were teenagers when they went to prison and coming to prison at 16 years old and being released at 50. It's a whole different world. And that's where we come in the reentry. We want to get people when they're inside, before they even come home. We want to teach them what it's like to be in society, what it's like to have a job, what it's like for finances. We're up to like 42 people so far who are now homeowners. They're wanting to be business owners now. They're wanting to get involved in different organizations. We formed the mentor group. It's not just people who were formerly incarcerated. There's also community members, family members. There's victims, there's attorneys, former judges, former Department of Corrections staff. And what we're doing is we're healing wounds together.
Michael and Cheryl Lydell are siblings who were both given life sentences under the 3 strikes law. They both mentored other people in prison. Fortunately, they both were granted early release, and now they're both out doing incredible things in the community.
I didn't see my beloved brother for 41 years. You need to understand what a miracle looks like when you see it. The first thing I had to do was forgive those who trespassed against me. Then I began to forgive myself. And then I began to take off and fly. Now, I did not go to college. I do not have a degree, but I am qualified to take somebody by their hand and lead them out of brokenness.
I had 56 years to do, 40 for the state, 16 for the feds. And I was told that I was a de facto lifer, being rescued by Camilla Mann and David Heiner and Jennifer Smith and Willa Osborne and the entire Clemency Project, right, raised me from a well, a dark, dungy well where there was no light. I want you guys to understand that those people in there need you like they need water to drink, like they need air to breathe, like they need family to love. That's what the Clemency Project has become to me, my family.
One of the things about the ACLU Clemency Project, when I first came on board, I felt like I got a hug from everybody in the entire organization, and they've never stopped hugging me. And everyone that we've helped, touched in some sort of way, is receiving that same hug. We can change people, whether it's one victim at a time, one community at a time, one city at a time, but we can change this world.
Wow, I cannot imagine not seeing my younger brothers for 41 years. On behalf of everyone, I want to thank you, the Seattle Clemency Project, for changing lives one person at a time, and for pushing us to change the criminal justice system into a true justice system. Now, I understand that we have Michael and Cheryl Lydell here with us in the room today and back as part of our community. Cheryl and Michael, could you guys please stand up for us? Where are you? And how about it? Can the whole entire Seattle Clemency Project, the staff and the volunteers, can you all please stand up? The Seattle Clemency Project, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work you do. Now is the time we look to equal justice advocates like you, because your support is crucial to sustaining and growing organizations like the Seattle Clemency Project, one of the 50+ grantees for the Legal Foundation of Washington. Now, many of those 82 people who served their sentences and gained clemency could still be in prison today if it were not for the Seattle Clemency Project and their amazing staff and pro bono lawyers. So thank you. Okay, folks, so here's the problem. There are just not enough legal aid lawyers to meet the demand. Studies show that for every one person who is helped through organizations like the Seattle Clemency Project, there are 3 people who cannot get legal help when they need it because of lack of funding. Now, the grants made through the Legal Foundation of Washington account for up to 90% of the budgets for the legal aid providers we fund. Today, what we're looking for really, truly, is 100% participation in giving. Now, we're at the part where I ask the table captains, could you please pass out the contribution envelopes around your tables? And for the folks watching at home, if you could please click the donate button next to this video, or scan the QR code, or if you know how, text Justice to 53555 to donate on your phone. So when you get your form, you're going to see that you have some choices. You can designate your gift to the annual campaign for equal justice, or for long-term sustainable funding through the Endowment for Equal Justice, or you can give to both. Now, if you're like me and many private practice lawyers, we think in terms of billable hours. We must bill a certain number of hours each year, and we charge our clients a set rate for every hour of our time. Even if you don't have an hourly rate, you probably know that lawyers charge anywhere from $300 to $750 an hour. Now, there are some lawyers in this room, and you know who you are, who charge even more. Speaking for me, my hourly rate is $525. So it takes something like 5 lawyer hours to help someone, one person, facing domestic violence to secure safety through a court order of protection. And it takes 7 lawyer hours to file paperwork to stop a tenant from being evicted in violation of the law. At my hourly rate, and I went to law school because I'm not great at math, but I think that's $2,500 to $3,500 per case, and that's just one person. Now, not everyone can take a years-long clemency case like the folks at the Seattle Clemency Project have done, or work at a legal aid clinic on the weekend, or go to the immigration detention center. But what we can do is give now. So I invite you, donate the value of 1 hour of your time at your billing rate. You'll be hiring a legal aid lawyer who will help one of our neighbors in their greatest time of need. These amazing lawyers give one-on-one representation that can change the trajectory of a person's life. Look at that, let there be light. Or they can change the trajectory of a person's life or the lives of their kids. Better yet, don't just give 1 hour of legal aid. Why not buy a whole civil legal aid case? That's right, 3, 5, 7, 10 hours times your billing rate will help one individual in need. This is our time as lawyers to stand together and to do what we've been called to do, to turn the legal system into a justice system that works for all, not just a select few. Every dollar you give to support legal aid and advocacy is fostering the growth of justice. I'm going to pause for a second so that everyone has a chance to give your full attention to filling out your gift commitment cards or making your donation online or on phone. Special important instructions. After you complete your donation form, please put it back in the manila envelope that it came from and leave it on the desk or on the table for pickup. I'm going to pause for just a second so everybody has a chance to do that. Thank you. And can I just say while you're doing this, I know I said I was supposed to shut up, but they hired a trial lawyer, so what are you going to do? You guys look amazing. I can't believe there's 600 people in this room today. Way to go, you all. Way to go. Keep that money rolling, but way to go. Thank you, dear. We got a lot of legal aid lawyers in this room, and they're saying, show me the money. They watched that Rihanna Super Bowl presentation, and they say, "Be better, have my money." That's what they are saying right now. All right, 10 seconds more. They told me I couldn't drop F-bombs during my presentation. It's been tough. All right. So last note, and then they're going to pull me off the stage. Did everybody notice that they got these super cool Seeds of Justice packets? These little packets of seeds here. Everybody should have one on their table. This is what passes for swag in legal aid terms, you guys. They're not going to be any Yeti coffee cups that you're going home with today, but we do have these seed packets. So aren't they sweet though? Here's the point. Take these home, plant them, and let them remind you that justice and equality require diligence, care, nurturing, and vision. Thank you very much. Thank you for your donations today. And I'm going to give you Sean Davis. Thanks, ma'am.
What's up? Right. So again, a great afternoon so far. I really appreciate you being here. Now it's my sincere pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon, Twyla Carter. Twyla Carter is the Attorney-in-Chief and CEO of the Legal Aid Society of New York. She was previously National Director of the Legal and Policy at the Bail Project. She was also a senior staff attorney with the ACLU's Criminal Law Reform Project. She has hometown roots, and prior to joining the ACLU, she was with the King County Department of Public Defense and the Defender Association. Please join me in giving a huge welcome to nationally recognized leader in public defense, Twyla Carter.
Sean, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. It is truly an honor to be here today. Thank you to the Legal Foundation of Washington and the Endowment for Equal Justice for giving me another great reason to come home. I am proud to support the foundation and celebrate this year's honoree, Michele Storms, and the featured organization, the Seattle Clemency Project. First, Michele, congratulations. This honor is so well deserved. Thank you for dedicating your entire professional career to representing low-income people, shaping young legal minds, and developing new leaders. Like you, I also believe in the promises of the Constitution. The work that you have done across the entire state to ensure that people from disenfranchised and marginalized communities have access to justice, equity, and fairness is truly inspiring. And personally, I know what it feels like to be a Black woman leading a large and influential organization during a tumultuous time. There are more of us in this position now, which is great, but there aren't a lot of support systems in place for us. So I told you this last night, and I'll say it again now publicly. I am so proud of you. And if you ever need anything, I got you. Like Michele, this year's featured organization has done incredibly impactful work. I had the honor of working with Jennifer Smith at the Seattle Clemency Project to secure the release of one of my former clients, Kenny Wyatt. When Kenny was 23 years old, he was convicted after a trial of attempted murder and assault in the first degree. He was sentenced to almost 33 years, which is more time than some people received who had actually taken a life. I met Kenny when I represented him at a resentencing hearing after he had already served 12 years. As a result of that hearing, his sentence was reduced from 32 years to 20. It was a good result, but the problem was that during my investigation into the case to prepare for the resentencing hearing, I learned what Kenny always knew to be true. He was actually innocent. A few years after Kenny was convicted, the victim of the attempted murder charge found God and wrote letters to the prosecutors, judge, and to Kenny, admitting that Kenny only shot him in self-defense. While it was great to know that I was able to cut 12 years off his sentence, that wasn't good enough for an innocent man. He deserved to be home with his family. And although my role as his public defender was over, I looked for paths to justice outside of the criminal legal system. I heard that there was a project providing free lawyers for just his sort of case. I called Jennifer and told her that Kenny was the poster child for clemency. She met with him in prison and learned what I already knew. Kenny was an amazing person who deserved his freedom. Jennifer volunteered to represent him, making his first case at the newly formed Seattle Clemency Project. I shared everything I knew about Kenny and his case, and she prepared a complete package on his behalf. Nearly 2 years later, the prosecutors agreed that Kenny's case was flawed and he was resentenced, this time on lower charges with credit for time served. I flew back to Seattle from New York to be with Jennifer and Kenny's family when he walked outside of the jail for the last time. I will never forget that day. Today, Jennifer and I still stay in touch with Kenny. He's now a board member at the Seattle Clemency Project, and he's thriving in his career as a carpenter. Kenny's case was one of the most meaningful I have had the privilege to work on in my career, not only because we were able to give him the justice that he deserved, but his case also resulted in systemic policy change. It was such a powerful example of the need for post-conviction advocacy and review outside of the criminal appellate process that the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office supported a law that would increase its authority to seek resentencing in the pursuit of justice. Kenny was released in 2018, and that new law became effective in 2020. Thank you, Jennifer, and the Seattle Clemency Project for the crucial role you play in reuniting families and changing policies. There are many great organizations like the Seattle Clemency Project that rely on funding from the Legal Foundation of Washington. The role the foundation plays is so important to ensuring that low-income people have access to justice and equality, especially now, during the civil rights war of my lifetime. This is the backdrop against which we must fight. 6 state legislatures have passed 9 election interference laws, and last year, at least 17 similar bills were introduced in an additional 5 states. 13 states have banned abortion, 15 states have anti-LGBTQ+ laws, and 8 states have banned critical race theory, while an additional 16 states have pending bills to ban CRT. Nearly 1,600 books have been banned in 86 school districts across 26 states. Washington has banned 4 books across 3 school districts since 2021. My point is that even in blue states, we can't afford to be complacent. We, the people, are losing our rights. And of course, the greatest burdens are borne by those who are most in need. We must hold the line and fight back. The funding and support that the foundation currently provides to nearly 50 civil legal aid organizations is essential to help even the odds. Evening the odds would mean fully funding civil legal aid service providers now and when their legal mandates increase. So for example, it's great that Washington recently passed a law ensuring that indigent people have a right to counsel in housing cases, but passing the law was the easy part. Implementing it and maintaining it will be much harder. While Washington is the first state in the country to pass a right to counsel law in housing cases, in 2018, New York City became the first jurisdiction to guarantee low-income people a right to a lawyer in housing court. Studies show that 84% of tenants stay in their homes when they have a lawyer to help them get more time to pay rent and advocate for programs and other alternatives. But the harsh reality is that after the eviction moratorium ended last year, there are not enough lawyers to handle all the cases. The number of tenants with an attorney has gone down every month. Just in the last year, 10,000 cases have been declined, and another 12,000 cases have had limited representation. And yet 95% of landlords have a lawyer. Throughout the 5 boroughs in New York City where the Legal Aid Society represents clients in housing courts, there are simply not enough lawyers for all the people facing eviction, and the lawyers we do have in housing court don't have enough time to provide meaningful representation because the rest of the system has not changed. Judges feel the pressure of having cases backed up, and they push them through faster than attorneys can be assigned. So we have in housing court what we have in criminal court: overworked and underpaid lawyers who can't keep up with the increasing demand for services. And all of this means low-income tenants lose their housing, the very people the right to counsel law is supposed to protect. Progressive jurisdictions take pride in enacting progressive reforms. But every time we make progress, the empire always strikes back. That's why we're seeing liberal elected and appointed officials push rollbacks on bail, discovery, and housing reform. The irony is that they are the ones who pushed for those reforms in the first place. We must ensure that civil legal aid providers who will take on this new housing workload are always fully funded. Otherwise, we are just creating yet another way that organizations are part of the nonprofit industrial complex, which is described as a system of relationships that exist between nonprofits, the foundations that fund them, and the government, that gives the impression we're helping the most vulnerable people when we are actually placating the masses and maintaining the status quo. When civil legal aid organizations are required to compete with one another for limited funding, or required to rely on the government for their funding, as when a new housing law gets passed, for example, organizations are forced to mold themselves into existing structures instead of tearing them down and building a new system that provides effective solutions to meaningfully address people's needs. A new system must include paying staff who work at civil legal aid organizations a competitive livable wage. The truth is that many public defender and civil legal aid organizations around the country are currently experiencing unprecedented rates of attrition as advocates leave the nonprofit sector to take higher paying jobs. If public defenders are woefully underfunded, and that work is constitutionally mandated, just imagine the funding challenges that exist for civil legal aid providers. This is why the support that the Legal Foundation of Washington provides is so important. Its grant-making process increases investments in communities impacted most by systemic racism, analyzes demographics of poverty populations to highlight funding disparities, creates channels for community input, and supports compensation equity. In addition to implementing policies that connect the work between the criminal and civil systems, as in Kinney's case, a new system must also break down the silos between the criminal, civil, and juvenile practices to support the whole person. It does not matter if you work in criminal court, immigration court, housing court, or juvenile court. We share the same clients. One client can be 17 years old, have a criminal charge, be in foster care, lose their apartment and public benefits, have a disability, get kicked out of school, and/or face deportation. In other words, an indigent client that faces a criminal charge typically may also face numerous civil consequences. At Legal Aid, we attempt to provide holistic services that help to support the entire person. But by the time a person becomes our client, it is often too late. They're already on the verge of losing their public benefits or children, getting evicted from their home, or being deported. I know that we likely agree that we should invest in preventative community-based programs, but how many of us hold our elected and appointed officials accountable when the city or state budgets don't reflect that approach? How many of us are willingly, albeit unwittingly, participating in the nonprofit industrial complex? These are the challenges we face. Giving up, much less failure itself, is not an option. To be sure, there are very few people in this room who will be the recipients of any services that civil legal aid organizations provide. But we must always remember for whom we are fighting. The people we represent as civil legal service providers are indigent and primarily people of color. Sometimes they just need a little help, but oftentimes they face a catastrophic, life-changing event. Never forget why we are here. To all the funders, donors, and sponsors, thank you for your support. We need you. Until elected and appointed government officials implement and fully fund effective permanent solutions to provide basic needs, the caseloads and the workloads that civil legal aid providers are already forced to carry will continue to increase. We cannot do all the work that we need to do without your financial help. Thank you to the Legal Foundation of Washington for raising, managing, and distributing funds for organizations providing civil legal services. We need you. We can't do our work without your continued support. To all the organizations like the Seattle Clemency Project that provide direct representation and policy and advocacy support on behalf of low-income communities, thank you. We need you. We can't do our work without you. And to all of the folks in the room who are civil legal service providers, people like Michele Storms, who have dedicated their careers to serving low-income people, thank you for making the decision to stand in the gap of injustice and inequality despite being underpaid and under-resourced. I see you. We need you. We need you, and we really can't do this work without you. So as we leave this luncheon and go back to work, no matter what we're going through in our personal and professional lives, we have much to be grateful for, and we can all help people in need, whether it's donating money to the Legal Foundation of Washington or directly to civil legal service providers, donating our time to volunteer at a community clinic, taking on a pro bono case, or creating, passing, and implementing laws that will change lives. Remember that low-income people need our help. May we never forget why we are here. Thank you.
Twyla, thank you so much. To close this afternoon, I really want to, and where I'm from, we often say, know better, do better. I know we've all heard it said, knowledge is power. So I want you to leave here this afternoon empowered and inspired to fight for justice, to continue your support. And remember, it's not about how much you can give, it's about you changing your world and fighting for justice. Again, thank you for being here, and thank you for your continued support for the LFW and Civil Legal Aid in the state of Washington. Have a great afternoon.